Well, hello there, and welcome back to another episode of what I call Warhammer Wednesday. I am currently lit very top down because my fucking light still hasn't arrived. So if you follow the channel quite a bit, I'm sorry that I'm lit to the point that my bags under my eyes are worse than normal, and that's saying something. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about my 6 picks for the dumbest fucking models that Games Workshop has ever made. That's not units, that's not gameplay, that's models. To explain that a little bit, I actually like some of the models on this list. I plan to get some and paint some of the models on this list, but I still think they're worth talking about how dumb they are. Also, I'm going to be talking kind of archetypally almost, like each point will have a wider range of other models that tie into it, because I'm super high concept and very clever. So shall we jump into it? Number 6, this Sisters of Battle orator thing. Now, the Dialogus is a model I am not aware of, like what it does in the game mechanically, because all the Sisters of Battle players I play against, Bricky included, are sweaty tryhards that always play competitive lists. I'm only joking, Bricky, I'm still reeling from the absolute spanking you gave me. The new Sisters line of models are amazing. They're detailed, beautiful sculpts that helped to replace some of the truly piss-poor old ones that hadn't aged so well, and this is the famous one, right? Look at its gaping fucking mouth. It is awful compared to this new one, which is incredible. This 6th slot here, which talks about the Dialogus, is my archetype for models that really need to be revamped, Games Workshop. Of course, I'm talking about the Dialogus here and the incredible work that Games Workshop can do when updating a line of models, something I hadn't really considered much before returning to the hobby last year. I didn't realise lines even needed updating. I just assumed it was always old models with the occasional update. I knew that things like, well, some other things on this list had been updated, but didn't realise it was a regular occurrence, or should be a regular occurrence. But case in point, let's talk about the Eldar. Some of these Xenos need some fucking love. Look at these fucking Guardian models. This kit came out in 2006. It's 14 years old. I have turds stored in a jar in my basement that are older than that because I'm a fucking pervert. Honestly, even the heavy metal team, some of the best players in the world, even they didn't get these sculpts to look that great. They've aged badly, their faces are bad, their hair is bad. Wow, this one has a haircut like my late mother had. So the orator thing is hilarious to look back on, and it's a wonder to compare this to the new ones. And basically, I think Eldar needs some of that love. And number 5, let's talk about Grot mech guns for a moment. This model is perfectly fine in terms of how it looks. This isn't about its look. There's anyone on the entire list that isn't about the look. You can paint it up nice and pretty and field them unmasked in order to have a relatively competitive orc list in 9th edition 40k. To reiterate, these things are legitimately valid to take on the tabletop if you're aiming to be competitive in 40k and to win no matter what, to quote DJ Khaled, then you should take these things. But that's kind of where the problem comes up, right? Because you need quite a few of these fucking things, and they're expensive. They are cheap in game at 40 points per model for the base version, and a bit more for different guns put on them. That makes them cheaper than a singular Eradicator model, who's at 45 points, and these are at 40. They are, in essence, the orc equivalent of the Eradicators in some ways. They are shooty boys or girls or grots that can be taken in squads of 6. However, each gun model with 5 grots retails for £30. Want one squad of a full 6 mech guns at retail price point? Well, you're looking at a cool £180. If you live in the States, or heaven forbid, in that hellscape they call Australia, then with the additional costs of picking up retail models in those countries, you're probably looking at approximately maybe $1 million of your local money. It's wild. To add further insult to injury, if you look at the entry for this in the Codex or Warhampedia, they're meant to come with six grots. It only comes with 5. What? So in short, this slot, this category, is for models that cost far too much fucking money for what they do in the game. The thing is, there's a silver lining with the Grot guns. You can get third-party versions. You can kit bash it by just like sticking 4 las cannons together and sticking them to a ball of yarn or some shit. You can kit bash orc stuff, right? Kit bashing Krieg Death Riders is a lot harder. These things are 17 points per man on a horse, and they're £17 per model on Forge World, making it 1 point per pound spent. Yeah, that's like if a Redemptor Dreadnought cost £175. If you want more of that kind of price comparison, I did a whole video on the 10 most expensive models in Warhammer 40k, thinking about bang for buck in terms of model quantity and points on the tabletop and stuff. That'll be linked in the cards and description and stuff. But in essence, the mech gun is dumb, and it shouldn't be that expensive. That's it. At number 4, we have the OG Genestealer Cult Patriarch prior to the revamp of the GSC. They used to be a derpy, limousine-driving collection of, I guess, vampire counts looking at them, these motherfuckers. A HQ choice for them as the Patriarch, and the old model is, well, quite frankly, hilarious. Personally, I love this old, fat, chunky resin boy sat on his toilet throne being a fat cunt. The modern version of him is far more the psychic predator, far more the thing you expect, badass and threatening. But honestly, I only recently found out that that Patriarch and a Broodlord aren't the same thing because they look the fucking same. The old Patriarch is undoubtedly stupid. If you showed it to someone now, they would say that's a model from like the late 80s or the early 90s. The exact year it came out, I don't know. And there's literally no way of ever finding out. We don't have the technology. But I kind of like this old fat prick. Like, he looks like the middle ground between fat cat bureaucrat exploiting the workforce at the top of the pyramid and the Genestealers. And that's really cool that it's got that crossover, because that's what I imagine the leaders of the Genestealer cult would feel like. I think it's got a lot more character than the modern rendition of the unit, which just looks like another fucking Genestealer. In fact, this bold fat shit is more imposing in a grotesque way. The sculpt hasn't aged very well, and most people will laugh at him, but I kind of love this dumb bastard. Number 3, no list of stupid looking models would be complete without Nagash. This is modern Nagash. This is modern Nagash art. This is the old school Nagash model. I had to include him. Some of these models, like the Patriarch and Old Sister models and the Guardians, they all looked fine at the time. Another very funny model on this list looked good to young, impressionable PleasantKenobi whenever I saw this model in a battle report or a catalogue of the model in White Dwarf as a kid. But this one, when I saw this in White Dwarf, I thought it looked hammy when I was a child. I think it's always looked a bit shit. It looks to me like someone has modelled a bad cosplay of Nagash. So there's Nagash, someone's cosplayed it badly, and then someone's modelled after that cosplay, and that's what we've got to fucking, like, lead your army, the forces of the undead? God, this lad is an ugly bastard, isn't he? The funniest thing is, the old Warhammer Fantasy art for him is also suitably epic. That looks like one scary motherfucker, right? But then you have this piddly, pewter piece of crap at the heart of your army. What a fucking embarrassment. Talking of embarrassments, let's talk about Screaming Nids. The current line of Nids is suffering a little bit, similarly to the Eldar. I think a revamp and a good box set would lure a lot of new players into them. The Zerg and Alien, all these things are cool and they resonate with people, but sometimes you have to stop and look how far they've come to appreciate that they're not as bad as we all think while we wait for a new model line. I think Nids as a whole have the worst early lineup models in the game. There are some standouts. The Screamer Killer, later renamed the Carnifex, with its screamy mouth, and the old penis-headed Hive Tyrant, which I actually have a soft spot for thanks to the neon red and brooding purple coloured 2nd edition Hive Tyrant cover art. But the biscuit is firmly taken by the Tyranid warriors, which were abhorrent even then. Even the splash art and the concept stuff is derpy. These buck-toothed, gangly bastards are about as threatening as a bowl of cottage cheese. The 2nd generation ones were no better as they squashed them down, and the current gen ones, they look more unified with the general look of Tyranids with his head crest armor and stuff, but I think they're kind of forgettable. I think Tyranid warriors on the whole have got a bit of a boring identity about them. They aren't as like imposing as the chunky Hive Guard, and they're just boring. But the old ones don't even look like warriors. They look like a string of anal beads with legs. And then finally at number 1 we come on to the controversial one. The one that will probably make Warhammer players angry. Because if you mention women in a Warhammer video, they get really fucking mad. I did a video on like, let people model their Space Marines as women and let them have a headcanon of women Space Marines. And well, it's some of the most vitriolic hate I've ever gotten for making a video. So, good job Warhammer community. On that note, let's talk about some tits. Once upon a time, you could pick up the official Games Workshop Slave Girls. And as far as I can tell, they had no rules whatsoever. On a cursory Google, please tell me in the comment section if I'm wrong, but I believe they served no rule function whatsoever. They were, and this sentence really summarizes a lot of the baggage that comes with these models existing, purely for decoration. They are awful in model terms as well, of proportions and general aesthetic. Like, if we just put all of my other complaints about these and the baggage around them on the back burner for a second, I think we can go as far as to say these things are objectively fucking ugly. But all that aside, the fact that we had buxom, scantily clad attempts at pin-up slaves is a little embarrassing, really, for like any of us involved in this hobby. Thankfully, Games Workshop don't sell these anymore, but that doesn't stop other companies from stepping in to provide the slave girls or just other super sexed up models. And let's unpack this, right? I'm super pro sex, erotic, pornography, all that sort of stuff when it has its place, its time and place, right? I think that sexed up models, much like sexed up magic card altars, like, you can have them at home if you really want them, if you need them in your game. But imagine going to a local game store and getting your models out of a bag as your opponent rocks up and you realise they're like a 14-year-old with their dad. And now you've got like tits out models from a third party proprietor, or maybe just the official slave girls. And whilst I'm not pearl clutching here, right? Like if I was taking my kid, I don't have any kids, but if I had a kid and I was taking him to a games workshop or a local game store to play some Warhammer, and someone got the buxom slave girls out or another sexed up model line from like I said, a third party, I wouldn't be like, let's report that person for indecent exposure. But it would be uncomfortable, right? It would be awkward, and I would ask them not to play with those models in front of my kids, because whilst I'm not a prude, I don't know of a game of Warhammers where we should be having that fucking conversation. In short, it's your hobby, it's your dollars, it's your fetish, I guess. Do whatever you want behind closed doors, that's more than reasonable. But these things are not for public play, right? What the fuck is this? And wait, I'm not finished. Let's talk a bit more about this. I've been looking at third-party, non-Games Workshop companies that provide alternatives that you can play on the tabletop, or just models in general. I've just bought a Creature Caster Demon, for example, and they're not exempt from this either. And there is an overwhelming amount of companies that might produce some very nice resin models, and then you just click one more click and you're into Titsville. That's just tits, and more tits. I don't understand. Well, no, I was going to say I don't understand why. I do understand why, right? I get it. I'm a man. I understand the allure of tits and ass. I guess with a hobby like model gaming that's like connected to Warhammer especially, everything is exaggerated, both in aesthetic and theme and flavour and fluff. So pin-up and buxom ladies kind of makes sense in that regard. And if you're going to model something, you're going to paint and see from a long distance away, you want prominent things. Facial features are exaggerated, proportions are out. So having nipples poke through a shirt or just being on display makes sense from an eye-catching perspective. But isn't it all a little bit embarrassing? Like, we wonder why hobby spaces and gaming spaces are male-dominated, and then this is not the norm. Like, I haven't met anyone who's playing these things yet at stores, so it's not really a moral panic or anything, but it is quite frankly bizarre that so many third-party companies make so much of this stuff, but then it's not bizarre because it evidently must sell. I think we should be making our hobby space more welcoming to as many people as possible, and I think just like over-sexualization of women in these fucking models is embarrassing and not doing that. And of course, there will be women that find these things empowering and enjoy them. They enjoy the absurdity of it, or the empowerment of controlling their own sexuality, and I get that, but there will also be plenty of non-men that don't enjoy that. It's just rather juvenile. But then again, I guess the whole hobby is juvenile. It's little toy soldiers with guns shooting each other. But I mean, do we have to put sex into that? I don't know. So let me know what you think. Do you think my picks were wrong? Do you think something on this list didn't deserve to be here? Did I miss something? And I'd love to hear your opinion on the whole, like, let's just have tits all over our models. I'm far more forgiving of it when it's like a sex demon. I'm far less forgiving of it when it's just replacements for every one of your Marines, Sisters of Battle, or Imperial Guard units. That's kind of dumb. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I've been Vince, also PleasantKenobi on the internet, and I'll see you all soon. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and ta-ta for now.